The NBA draft lottery is in the books. The results kind of sucked. And man, am I glad the Toronto Raptors have other avenues to getting better. We'll get into all of it on a live edition of Locked On Raptors. Vivek Jacob will be along in a sec here too. Let's get to it.
You are Locked On Raptors, your daily Toronto Raptors podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's going on? And welcome to a live edition of Locked On Raptors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day here on the Locked On Raptors YouTube channel. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for telling a friend, etc., etc., etc. I'm your host, Sean Woodley. Been covering the Toronto Raptors now for a long time, 11 seasons on various platforms. You can find all my work over on Blue Sky. You can find the show on Instagram. You can join our Discord, which is displeased right now, confused, losing its mind. All of that, go check it out. The link is in the description of the podcast or any past podcast, or message me and I'll let you in there. Either way, let's get to it. Today's live edition of the show is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Here, talking about the draft lottery, which just went down, and your Toronto Raptors will pick 9th in the upcoming NBA draft after having the 7th worst record in the NBA. This was about as low as they could fall. There was a tiny little chance they could fall to number 10. They did not do that, but with a bunch of teams jumping from the lower reaches of the lottery, including the damn Mavericks, the Spurs jumped up. All very unpleasant stuff. The Sixers keep their pick. This is like one of the least ideal possible lottery outcomes I could have conjured up in my head. I'm not having a great time over here, but let's get to it. Let's get into just the first blush reaction to the Raptors picking 9th. My number one thing here with the Raptors picking 9th is that I am thrilled that the Raptors didn't throw all of their chips on the lottery, saving their bacon and helping them power out of a rebuild. We just saw it. The Washington Wizards were awful, one of the worst teams in basketball, and they fell to 6th. The Utah Jazz, also awful, shamelessly tanking all season long. They fell to, the Wizards are 6th, the Jazz are 5th. You have the Pelicans drop to 7th. The Nets drop to 8th. All of these teams dropping down. The Hornets even, one of the worst teams in the league, they fall to 4. You have the Mavericks, Spurs, and Sixers getting those top 3 picks. The lottery will not save you. It is not here to save you. It is here to ruin your life and dash your dreams. And if you're a team that is throwing all of your hopes for the future into the lottery saving you, tonight was a pretty good example of why that's a silly way to live as a franchise. It's just, man, it's tough stuff. Like, this is, hey, it would have been great had the Raptors moved up. We'd be laughing. We'd be saying, oh, this is incredible. Look at these geniuses for being the 7th worst team and properly tanking, getting Cooper Flagg. It's all random. It's all dumb luck. And the Mavericks getting the first overall pick of all teams, the team that traded Luka Doncic and then spent 4 months pissing itself because it couldn't handle the criticism, the very fair criticism over the Luka Doncic trade, gets bailed out, gets their future saved with this lottery win. Kind of ridiculous. The Spurs, hey, great for them. They're the one team that can say the lottery has saved their bacon. They get Victor Wembanyama, and now they're going to get Dylan Harper. Great. Maybe they trade that pick for Giannis. I don't know. Either way, the lottery exists to ruin your day, to make you upset, to not make you feel like your season was worth anything. All of these teams, the Jazz, Wizards, Pelicans, I was just on a live stream with the host of all of these shows, and all of them are feeling worse than I am today because the Toronto Raptors at least have a way out. The Raptors have a backstop to them not winning the lottery, and that is the Brandon Ingram trade and this sort of slow build up to competency, up to a deep, some of its parts type of team that they're on the way to procuring. Brandon Ingram's a big part of that. They'll have the 9th overall pick in this draft, and we'll get into it later on in the show. We'll get into some guys that we like. But when Vivek pops in, we'll talk to him about where he's feeling. But for me, man, I'm happy the Raptors didn't throw all of their eggs into the lottery basket, and they have this hedge, the Brandon Ingram trade, that allows them to go into next year and not have to do this lottery dance again. Doing this every year sucks. Being a fan of the Washington Wizards sucks. You don't get these years back, man. Eventually, sure, One day it'll all pay off. And yes, to get those true top of the league inner circle superstars, it's very likely you got to be picking high to get them. There are other ways to build a functional team. There are other ways to go forward with your franchise. I talked about the Indiana Pacers on today's show. A great example of this, right? A team that's never really picked higher than 7th, I don't think. Ben Mathurin, Jarris Walker were their 2 highest picks during their recent stretch of not being very good. They make an opportunistic trade to go and get Tyrese Halliburton. We have a question, by the way. We're going to get questions in the back part of the show. Once we're done with the show proper, once Vivek is in, we're going to do just like a live Q&A. So please keep on your questions dropping in. Thank you for being along, and we'll get to those questions as we go forward for sure. But back to what I was saying. Lost my train of thought. I'm just happy the Raptors are in a spot now where they can go into next season, try to follow the Pacers model of you make an opportunistic trade here and there, you draft well on the margins, you develop guys, make them into rotation players, and all of a sudden you have a roster full of 9, 10, 11 good basketball players who can kind of play a cohesive style, play with an identity, all that good stuff. It's, to me, the better way to go, especially for a franchise in the Raptors that's just won a title. We're not thirsty over here. We're doing fine. I'm like swathed in my championship gear still. I still wear my hoodie around from the championship. Like, it's all there. We're going to bring in Big V here. What's up, Big V?
What's up, man?
The Dallas Mavericks. How you feeling, man?
I feel like Adam Silver did his thing.
Yeah, what is this? Fish? I'm smelling fish everywhere. What's going on here? I was just waxing poetic, my man, about how just happy I am that the Raptors didn't throw all their eggs on getting better into the lottery basket. And yes, they're 9th, and that stinks. And, it'd be better if they're picking high, but having Ingram and just like a clear path to winning 40-something games next year feels pretty good to me right about now. I bet the Wizards and the Pelicans and the Hornets and the Jazz and all of these teams that fell down probably wish they had made some kind of hedge against lottery luck. What say you to that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there was some kind of agenda going on. It was like, oh man, these Mavs fans are really unhappy that I got, Luka to the Lakers.
Oh, so you're going full conspiracy theory. Okay.
So we got to find some way to fix this. Jeez. Well, it's too bad that stops the Spurs from getting the number 1 pick. From the Raptors,
they needed it too, definitely.
Once we saw that the Raptors had the 7th best odds, the most likely position based on the percentages was 8th.
Yeah.
And so you end up 9th, and yeah, it'd be nice to be Philly. You would like to be in that position, but this is the way it played out. The Raptors are going to get a solid player. We don't know if, there's probably less certainty at 9 than there is with those guys in the top 4.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's a solid pick.
As internet pal Jason Hindle noted to me on Blue Sky, the Raptors have had the 9th pick a few times before. It's been quite friendly to them in their history. They got Tracy McGrady at 9 in 1997. They got DeMar DeRozan at 9 in 2009. Never heard of him. And then they got Jakob Poeltl, of course, at number 9 back in 2016, the draft where they kicked ass and changed their franchise forever. So, yeah, I mean, look, yeah, it'd be better to get a good player. There's no doubt about it. But I trust that the Raptors front office is going to draft well. And like whoever they pick here, I think comes in pretty clearly as their best prospect in the door. I mean, maybe you say Jacoby Walter, you have a higher belief in or whatever, but pedigree wise, the 9th pick in this draft versus the 19th pick in last year's draft, like he's going to come in the door as the most highly touted prospect they have on hand. And you get to add him to a mix of just like a lot of pretty interesting potential NBA rotation players. It's not sexy. It's not, unless they really go and hit a home run, which that would be great. And we can talk about if you have any sort of preferred guys coming up later on in the show. But yeah, man, I think considering that the lottery is designed to leave you feeling disappointed, I feel like I'm actually holding up all right with it. And I think it's probably because all these other loser-ass tank teams lost. And like, I like the karma of that. I don't love that the Mavericks were the team that jumped up. It'd be cool if, like, I don't know, the Blazers had moved up. They were kind of my pet team of, that'd be kind of cool if the Blazers jumped into the top, considering they were ethical down the stretch and won like 36 games. But yeah, it's the Mavs. The Mavs. Man, we'll come back, Big V. We'll get things rolling here. We're going to get some questions and answers in a little bit later on as well. But first, we got to tell you about some good friends, and we'll do that in just one sec. Today's show is brought to you by our pals over at Hungryroot. Vivek, do you like shopping? Do you like going grocery shopping?
Sure.
That's not what you're supposed to say. You're supposed to say, I don't have the time for that, man. I got too much stuff going on. I've got blogs to write and podcasts to record and draft lotteries to examine. I don't have the time to go shopping. And Hungryroot makes it so you don't have to, because they are going to do the shopping for you. Hungryroot is like having your own personal shopper and nutritionist wrapped into one. They take care of grocery shopping and meal planning, offering personalized recommendations based on your taste and health goals. You can tailor your order to what you like or don't like, and it gets smarter every single time. You get high quality, nutritious food. You can stick to your whatever your diet might be very easily. Meals come together quick, giving you more time to do things like podcast with your pal Sean. Take advantage to this this exclusive deal. Boy, get 40% off your first box plus a free item in every box for life. Go to hungryroot.com/LockedInNBA and use the code LockedInNBA. That's hungryroot.com/LockedInNBA, code LockedInNBA for 40% off and a lifetime free item. Today's show is also brought to you by our friends over at Monarch Money. Let's try this again, Big V. Do you ever look at your bank account and ask, where did all my money go?
All the time.
There we go. Perfect. We love it. Well done. Way to take part in the ad read, baby. Ever check around and say, where'd all my money go? Yeah, that's Monarch Money is here to help you keep track of all your money. It's your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is not just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track your spending all in one place, in one easy to go to stop. So you don't just manage your money, you start building wealth. It's great if you have lots of accounts. You need to keep an eye on all of those accounts. Maybe you have a mortgage account, a shared account with your partner, whatever it might be. You can go and keep those all tracked in one spot, know where your money's going at any given time. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LockedInNBA at monarchmoney.com. 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code LockedInNBA for half off your first year. Go do it, Big V.
You got it.
We continue our live reaction show to the NBA draft lottery, which just went down. To refresh, if you're just joining the live, a couple things. If you have questions, drop them in the chat. We will get to your questions as we go forward. And we got a couple bangers in there, so that's going to be fun. We, of course, will talk a little bit some draft guys we might like at the 9 spot. I certainly have some thoughts. I'm curious where Big V lies on some of these dudes, but let's go back to what I was talking about with the Brandon Ingram trade and why this is a nice backstop and just sort of like a good hedge against lottery luck not going your way. Are you excited about not watching a lottery bound team next year, Big V? Like, what excites you about that?
Oh yeah, I'm very much ready for this team to compete again, to make a playoff push. And, hopefully I think there's a chance that this team can compete for a top 6 spot if all things click the right way. And yeah, I'm excited for Brandon Ingram. I'm excited for, hopefully the team just being healthy and just seeing the best guys on the floor consistently, because that's something we haven't seen in a little while.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. That's like the limiting factor here is the health thing. If they can't get healthy, then it's not going to go super well. But just the idea of playing a bunch of rotation level players together sounds really exciting to me. And just like having a goal that is not hoping the lottery odds save you at the end of the year. Man, I can't get over the Jazz, Wizards, Pelicans, Nets being 5 through 8 in the draft. Like such a good embodiment of why the lottery exists, to make you feel terrible and nothing else. Let's talk about the guys at 9. So I'm not sure, I did my own personal board earlier on today. Obviously, how I rank things is probably not how it's going to go on draft night because, every team has their own preferences and it's all eye of the beholder and all of that. With the 9th pick, do you feel like, is there anyone who kind of stands out to you just based on whatever research you've done who's like, ooh, if that guy's there, that's a score for the Raptors? Does someone come to mind?
Not necessarily. I think there's a few ways that the team could go now. And I think, because you're lower down in the draft, I probably lean towards maybe addressing the pick positionally a bit. because I think you've got a few guys that fall into the same tier in terms of talent and whatnot.
Sure.
So I think when you look at the center position, when you look at, potentially you want to look at the power forward if Chris Boucher is gone, and obviously the point guard position. I think those are the areas that you might want to look at. So, I think Thomas Sorber is probably a guy that you would consider.
Thomas Sorber. Ooh, like that.
I think as a big, I've liked what I've seen from him. And I think, even in terms of the way the Raptors want to play, right? Like he is someone that can move the ball. I think he does understand. I think he would understand Darko's system pretty well. And so I think that's something that has appealed to me and just like watching some of his film.
Sure.
So yeah, that's probably one name that I'd throw out there for now. Who you got?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm kind of torn on this one because I like the idea of the positional fit thing. I also think like if you're picking 9th, why not just kind of take the biggest possible swing you can and see if you can really like overshoot your draft slot by getting a guy with some serious upside. I have no idea if he's going to be there. I mean, he seems to be going anywhere between like 4 and 15 in different draft mocks I see, but Jeremiah Fears really, I can't quit that dude. I know the shooting is rough. I know he's just like rough around the edges as a prospect in general, but he was so young at school this year. He should have been a high school senior. He just has this incredible handle. Like it's so beautiful to watch him just like dribble the ball around and like blow by dudes. He gets to the rim a ton. He doesn't finish at the rim very well. That's the big thing he's got to work on in that regard as a rim pressure piece. The mid-range shot I believe in quite a bit. The 3-point shot was not very good in college. Can that come around? I just feel like a guy with that level of ball handling juice is someone worth betting on and worth kind of just taking a swing. And so if he's there and you can take a swing there, even if like maybe that's not their biggest position of need and they could totally use some size throughout the roster, I think I'm perfectly all right with a swing on a guy who I think his upside is like, oh, this guy can be like one of the 3 or 4 best players from this draft with a ton of creation upside, who eventually is a lead guard one day. Like it might not work out. That's maybe like a top 20 percentile outcome, but it's on the table for him if everything breaks right. Obviously there are the bigs too. Like I love Kaman Malawash. If I were a front office, I would not.
You think he drops to 9?
What's that?
You think he drops to 9?
That's the thing. If I'm a front office, I wouldn't let him drop to 9, but I could see the case for why he would. He doesn't have, a lot of sort of like passing pedigree. He didn't perform very well in the end of the Final Four. Like, guys, this is the thing with this draft. I think it's going to be super hard to predict where 3 through 10 ends up. And that's why I've always been kind of like, yeah, okay, like 9's not ideal. Obviously, you want to pick higher, but like someone's going to be there because this morass of dudes between 3 and 10, 3 and 12 is very similar and very much like I think each team is going to have their very sort of different readings on all of these guys. There's some chatter going on. We'll get into some specific questions regarding trades and stuff, but with actual names. But the idea of trading this pick, Big V, is this remotely interesting to you for where the Raptors are at? Because obviously it's going to be a thing that people talk about. I'm sure we'll do full episodes on it at some point. But is there anything that would compel you to trade this pick if you're the Toronto Raptors, kind of in keeping with the powering out of the rebuild thing?
I mean, if it takes giving up this pick to get a certain Giannis Antetokounmpo, it is on the table.
But the 9th pick ain't cutting it, man. I think we can put to bed the Raptors having an actual package to do it at this point, with the Spurs having the 2nd pick.
No, I mean, obviously the 9th pick is not going to be the centerpiece of the offer.
No. But I honestly think it's just like without 1 or 2 in this draft, I don't think they're going to be able to go toe to toe with the other offers that'll be out there. But
yeah, but you asked me what it would take. That's what it would take.
Carry
on. Yeah, no. If you get if there's like a superstar in play, if that's pretty much the only range because unless you find like that tier of elite defender who can knock down threes, who you would potentially fit into the RJ spot. That's something to consider. But beyond that, I think I'm okay with hanging on to the pick. So it's good from that standpoint where, again, the Raptors aren't necessarily having to force themselves into anything.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we'll still entertain the idea of trading for Giannis until it's no longer a possibility. I think at this point, it's going to take 9 plus Scotty plus RJ plus all of your picks, all of your swaps, and even then, I think if a team comes in like the Spurs with the second pick, or the Rockets just pony up all of their picks, which are kind of more valuable than the Raptors picks. It would be a bet for the Bucks against a team that is not the team that has Giannis if they can get those Suns picks. Like, I think that's probably the way that goes. I'm not trading this pick at all. I don't think. I think like we are seeing in the playoffs right now, just having a lot of good players is really valuable, and having cheap depth is really valuable. Like, I think we're seeing the way the roster's kind of transformed itself already over the last year or so. I think you've got to continue to kind of keep that pipeline rolling. You've got to have more guys on rookie deals who can kind of grow into something for you, especially when you have your core kind of locked in. And it's just, I don't see like a roster balancing trade out there that really kind of moves the needle, right? Like, it has to be a star if you're going to do it. And I just don't think you're getting a star for the 9th pick in this draft as the main piece going out. And, Giannis obviously is one story, but beyond that, I don't see anyone becoming available that's worth kind of giving up all of the stuff for, when you can kind of just do this slow build thing. And yeah, maybe they're a 6, 7, 8 seed next year, but you have this, again, sort of wave of younger guys coming through, and it kind of helps you keep going up and up and up as time goes on. And you can incrementally improve in a way that if you kind of give up the pick now and go make a big swing, you kind of just have your team, and that's what it is. And you're kind of just like, if you're not going to improve upon that, then you're in some trouble. Yeah, it's and like, there's always, I know there's some chat going on in the comments right now about trading down. It's always a nice theory. Oh, you can trade down and get multiple picks and all this stuff. Yeah, sure. Like, it's just always tough to pull off on draft night. And I still think picking high in the top 10 is always a good thing. It's not a bad thing at all. Great. I guess like we'll get into some questions coming up in a sec here, Big V. But overall, just sort of compared to what your highest hopes were for tonight versus how things have gone, not just with the Raptors, but with everybody else in the league, is this like an all-time unfortunate draft lottery?
It's got to be up there.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Sixers getting to keep their pick.
That's a bummer. Although I know some people wanted the Thunder to not get that extra pick, but I'm not worried about that. It's surplus to requirements for the Thunder. I don't really care.
Yeah. So, obviously, we saw Nick Nurse and Daryl Morey with a big smile on their face. So their team now, you look at that, having a top 4 pick, and I think we had an episode where we were talking about, we were trying to place the top 6 in the East for next season, and we talked about the Sixers a bit, and I totally forgot about Jared McCain. And that's another guy that's going to be back in the mix for them.
Lotto Deus representative tonight for
yeah. So yeah, I think both from just a competitive standpoint for the Raptors, and just not wanting to see good things for Philly, that was a bummer. And yeah, I mean, I will say I am happy for Mavs fans in a vacuum.
Yeah, Mavs fans, obviously, that's good for them.
Yeah,
because they whined enough and got Adam Silver to hand them a
there you go. We got you on board.
Oh man, yeah, this is right. I mean, again, there's part of this lottery I like, which is that 5 through 8 section of gigantic loser teams that continue to be gigantic loser teams and didn't move up. And I think that's great that they didn't get like rewarded for that. I'm still a fan of the flattened lottery odds. I know there's some sort of discourse out there where, the Mavs win, therefore, flattened lottery odds got to go now. No, this is good. Like, having this kind of lack of clear incentive to be the worst you can possibly be is a very good thing. And yeah, like being a Jazz fan right now, falling from 1 to 5 in a draft that had one guy that was like tailor-made for your team in every possible way, and to fall to 5 now, it's man, that's tough stuff. It's yeah, I feel bad for the Wizards, I guess, but even then, I don't really feel that bad for the Wizards. I don't feel anything about the Wizards. The Nets falling to 8 is hilarious. I think that maybe takes them out of the Giannis sweepstakes if they were ever in the Giannis sweepstakes, because they don't have anything to play, like no one to play with him if they were to trade for him. Yeah, so I'll go. This is like a 7 out of 10 bad lottery, with maybe even a 7.5, with the lone bright spot being at least the gigantic losers didn't get the benefit of it. Ethics prevailed, unless you're the Mavs. There were no ethics there at all. Man, the Mavs won. Unreal. We'll come back. We're going to get some questions. We got people with questions in the chat. If you have more questions, drop them in the chat. We'll try to get through as many as possible over the next little bit here on our lottery reaction show. We'll do that coming up in just one sec. Today's show is brought to you by friends over at FanDuel. And Big V, let's do this one more time, shall we? You're an NBA fan. You like watching hoop. Do you feel like sometimes you have hunches that you feel like you'd be like, oh, if I put some money on that, I'd be right, because I'd win some money because I'm very smart? I'm setting you up here to say yes.
Oh, thanks for the heads up.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that's where it was going. Absolutely, Sean.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live with player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays. Fans have way more ways to play than ever before. And if you're a smart guy like Big V, you can make some bucks by throwing some money down on whatever outcomes you think are going to happen in the NBA playoffs. You think the Cavs have a chance of coming back against our Indiana Pacers? I don't think they do, but if you do and you want to get some money, if they do, in fact, pull that off, go nuts. You can also, of course, do the happiness hedge. If you, like me, are a dreadful Toronto Maple Leafs fan right now, you can throw some money on the Leafs to lose. So when they inevitably do lose this series to Florida, you get some money out of the deal. Go check it out over at FanDuel. It's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, it's question time, Big V. Let's get into some. We might sort of end the podcast proper after a couple of these to avoid it being too long a podcast, but we'll stay live and get through as many questions as we possibly can. So please send questions, and thank you so much for hanging. Let's get to this one here from Notorious Painting and Decorating, asking, what are the chances we use number 9 and something to move up? Interesting. Always tough to put a number on this, like, what are the chances thing, because who the hell knows? But the idea of pairing 9 with something to move up in the draft, it would require some need on the other side from some team. I have a hard time seeing like a real fit, because I feel like, your easy move here is like Ochai Agbaji plus the 9th pick to move up or something like that, if you're trying to maybe dodge the tax or something like that. We didn't talk about that, actually. This probably means the Raptors could just keep RJ Barrett very comfortably this summer with no concerns because they didn't move up in the lottery. So there's that. If you're an RJ Barrett head, that's cool. But when it comes to moving up, pairing 9 with something, what's like the sexiest thing you could pair with number 9 in order to actually move up that you'd actually want to move on from if you're the Raptors?
So first off, I think the main answer to this is just the cap implications.
Yeah.
And so I do think that, being at number 9, the Raptors will be happy to know that they've got a bit more flexibility. And I think at number 9, it figures to be about 6.3 million in the first year. So I think the Raptors will be quite happy about that in terms of managing what's coming up. And yeah, I think in terms of the sexiest piece that you could include with the number 9 pick, that you would be okay with moving on from, I think RJ is on the list. I think Ochai is on the list. You had already mentioned that. And I think that would pretty much be it.
I wonder what it would take to get the Spurs to hand over number 2. They just got De'Aaron Fox. And maybe they want to use it to go get Giannis, but maybe they don't. Maybe they sit that one out. Dylan Harper, De'Aaron Fox, I'm sure it could work. They're both talented guards, but they're kind of similar in what they do. I wonder, you call up the Spurs and say, hey, here's 9. RJ would be like a nice, helpful piece for that team, I think. You could kind of get away with his defense with Victor Wembanyama roaming the back line, I think. What else do you have to add into that for the Spurs to be like, yeah, let's do it, guys? Like, it's probably like multiple future firsts, right?
Yeah, it would be about the picks.
Yeah.
Because I don't think they'd be interested in any of the players the Raptors have to offer. Because you're again in that compete now, win now window, um, which you expect to last quite a while with Wemby.
Mhm.
Hopefully everything is okay health wise. Uh, but man, you have to believe the Spurs are thinking, hey, like, what can we do with number two?
Let's do an end game. Yeah.
Yeah, can we just break everyone's basketball brain by
Mhm.
putting Giannis and Wemby together?
Yeah.
Um, oh boy, that would be insane.
Absolutely disgusting. Almost as disgusting as Flagg and Wemby would have been had they gotten Flagg. God, so glad this lottery sucks. Like it's God, top is a bummer. Anyway, I think look, I think Dylan Harper is such a hand in glove fit with what this team is doing that I think you call the Spurs and just kick the idea around. Say, hey, you guys really gonna use this pick on Dylan Harper, a guy who plays the same position as the guy you just traded for? What if we take him off your hands for you and kind of give you this ninth pick? That's like a nice pick to add to the Wemby core in this sort of tier of guys from 3 through 10 to 11 that kind of seems a little bit wishy-washy anyway. Here are a couple more future firsts to sweeten the pot. I'm not uninterested in it because of what Dylan Harper could do. I mean, like the sort of feeling I had coming into this lottery was like getting one or two is a game changer for the team because of how those guys would fit on this team. And I do think it's worth at least giving them a call. All the other spots don't care so much. If you can get to number two, very much worth poking around. It's just how realistic is that? I think that's tough to say. Let's get to this next question from Commander Beef. Great name. On a scale of 9.5 to 10, how much more favorably do you see NBA conspiracy theorists now? Well, I invite one on the podcast routinely in our pal Big V. So I've always viewed them rather favorably. Otherwise, he wouldn't be on the show all the time. But yeah, I mean, hard not to think like maybe there's something going on here. I don't think there is. The lottery seems like a pretty above board operation in the back room, unless Zach Lowe and Doug Smith and everyone else back there has been sworn to go along with the ruse. But yeah, like this will go down as one of the all-time NBA conspiracy theories. I think, we're in the first half hour of it existing, but gotta think this one's going to live on for quite some time. No?
I think so. I think
Yeah.
it's when you break it down from the Luka trade to what the Dallas Mavs are getting now, and
Mm-hmm.
you think back to, oh, of course, Cleveland got the number one pick the year LeBron was in the draft. Of course, the Knicks got Patrick Ewing, and hey, the white superstar was only going to end up in Dallas, Utah, or Indiana. I guess Boston couldn't get in there.
The Mavericks, man. Just Nico Harrison. Imagine how punchable Nico Harrison's face must be right now. Just like so smug. So just like, yeah, baby. Man, no, awful.
All part of the plan.
Yeah, all part of the plan indeed. A couple more quick ones, and then we'll stick around for some more mailbag after we end the podcast proper. This one comes from Commander Beef once again. Do you think Malawash or Queen fall to 9? I think it's likely one of them probably does, because it's a weird draft, and bigs are a little bit strange sometimes on draft night. Do you have a preference between these two big men, by the way, Big V? Come on, Malawash from Duke or Derek Queen from Maryland?
I think I lean Malawash. I
Mhm.
think the defensive upside is just so tantalizing.
Yeah.
And I think there's enough offense to be functional at the NBA level.
Mhm.
And yeah, I think especially if the mobility is there at the NBA level, I think that would be really, really great to pair alongside Scotty
Yeah.
long term. And so I think I'd lead in Malawash for sure.
If Malawash is there at 9 and the Raptors don't take him, I'd be kind of floored.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've him third. I know I'm crazy. I'm like very much outside the box on that one. I think he's number 3 for me because I think we always view upside through like an offensive lens, I think. And his upside is on the defensive end, but the upside is immense. And the idea of pairing him and Scotty Barnes next together as a 4-5 for many, many years is real horny to me. Let's get to one last quick one here. Do we have one more quick one we can get to? Let's see here. This isn't a question. It's just from Brandon Wilcox. Imagine being a Jazz fan right now. Sit with it, Big V. Imagine being a Jazz fan right now. How does it feel? Awful.
Not good.
Man.
Not good at all.
And like, this is the crappy thing about being one of those teams is now the cycle begins again. You know how many Jazz fans are looking at Cameron Boozer clips right now? Just like getting excited for next year's draft lottery that will probably also ruin their emotions for good. Like, yeah, it's a rough cycle to be part of, man.
Yeah.
Once again, very glad that the Raptors are not going to be ideally taking part in that cycle next year. It's not a fun place to be as a franchise.
Maybe they can bring his dad in to perfect the tank job to get his son.
just 44-year-old Carlos Boozer, painted on hair, just carving up the Jazz practice squad. Man, yeah, rough stuff. That's going to do it for the main podcast portion of tonight's live show. We're going to stick around after I just run a graphic and cut out the end of the podcast, and we'll hang out. And if you have more questions, please keep dropping in. We'll hang out as long as there are questions to be answered, because why not? It's lottery night. Look, it's not the thrilling jump up the lottery board I was hoping for when I planned all this live content, but here we are. So send in your questions. We'll get to some more. If you want them to just be not about the lottery either, have some fun with them. That's cool. We're going to keep hanging here on the live stream. But for those who are listening on audio, thank you so much for tuning in. Much appreciated. We'll have more, of course, this week talking about the draft. Now we actually can hone in on the 9th pick, which, as like a guy who needs to make a lot of podcasts between now and the draft, being able to examine a wide swath of guys that they might take at 9, awesome for me. I love it. It's great. So yeah, we'll have all that covered for you on the show as we go forward here. But thank you for following, subscribing, rating, reviewing, telling a friend, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't yet. So you get fun live stuff like we're doing tonight. If ever you want to hop in on the video side of things. And Big V, he's got the Substack, he's got Sportsnet, he's got all the good stuff. Please go support all of his wonderful work. And we will talk to you, the good people out there, on Wednesday for another episode of Locked On Raptors. Thanks for hanging. Bye-bye. Oh, just missed it. I'll take another one a little bit later on. Hold on. I'm just going to run a graphic. And now we're back. And now we're just with the sickos. We're just going to answer some questions from the real freaks still hanging out in the Discord. This one comes from Chris Donovan. Could Johan Berenger, I think I'm pronouncing that right, I have no idea, I've only seen his name written down, be the diabolical Masai move? I have not done a ton of digging into Johan Berenger. I gather he's like a 6'10", 6'11", big man out of France who's crazy athletic and does wonderful things on the defensive end. Are you expecting, 9 is a ripe position here, Big V, for some wild Masai Ujiri chicanery on draft night? A guy totally out of nowhere. Could be Berenger, could be Noah Senge, who I've talked about, who I think maybe even just goes top 10 anyway. But what were you at with the idea of a crazy swing on a guy that we've barely heard of?
I think Berenger would be a pretty huge swing at number 9. Obviously, he is a player who comes after my own heart with the soccer background, and you know, he's got that sort of Pascal story. He didn't touch a basketball until 2021, and picked him off the soccer pitch, and so I'll definitely take to him if he enters the fray. But I do think it would be a big reach at number 9. Is there a flyer per se that I'm looking at? I wouldn't say right now. I think I'd probably have to dig deeper into the draft to really have a hot take like that. I've just been focusing pretty much on the guys who are like within the top 12. So yeah.
Yeah, I think the guys who would qualify as flyers are those sort of Euro wing types who, we know Masai has a type. I think he would be certainly all right taking one of your classic sort of, you know, projectable, wingy, toolsy type guys who still can't really shoot or anything like that. I'm genuinely like very in on Noah Senge. I think he's going to be quite good. He's someone I'd be totally fine with taking at 9, honestly. Honestly, he might be my betting favorite to go at 9 at this point, considering what his profile as a player is and what the Raptors tend to go for. And also, like, they need some size. They need a little bit more beef and sort of lineup elongation in the front court. So wouldn't be shocked by that. But yeah, Behringer feels a little bit rich for 9, but we'll see. We never know. They could totally surprise us and take a guy who has some grainy footage from 5 games in some obscure league, because that's just how they roll. This one comes from Ron. Is Embiid still available? Was he available before? And I must say, if you have any thoughts of the Raptors trading for Joel Embiid, just tuck them away somewhere, because it's bad. This is a bad place. Don't think about that. That's not something you should be pursuing. It's probably the worst contract in basketball. Do you know how much money Joel Embiid makes in 2030 or 2029?
Hit me with it,
$69
Sean.
million, Big V. A lot of money. It's a lot of cake. His new contract hasn't even started yet, and he's in his current situation. Is there anything that compel you to trade for Joel Embiid? Now that the Sixers, they've got the 3rd overall pick, maybe they are like, okay, we're emboldened here. We've got Maxey, McCain. We can start building in a new direction here. Maybe we get an Ace Bailey to fill out our lineups. We don't need to do this Embiid thing going forward anymore. Maybe we take Malawash or Derek Queen to be our new big man. Let's find a deal for Joel Embiid. Is there anything on God's green earth that could compel you as the Toronto Raptors to trade for Joel Embiid?
Nope, not at all. Would not want anything to do with Embiid. I think the risk is simply way too high.
Yeah.
And that is the Sixers' problem to deal with, and everyone else should leave it that way.
Yeah, don't bail them out of that one, man. Don't let them get the 3rd pick and then also bail them out of this this very, very bad contract situation they find themselves in. Again, if you're still watching, which I know there's some of you out there, please drop some questions in the chat. We'll get to some more here. This one comes from Chris Donovan asking point guard preference between Igor Demon, Jace Richardson, Kasparis Yakachonis, and Nolan Traore, who I truthfully haven't watched a lot of Traore. He was originally one of the top 5 guys projected to go in this draft alongside VJ Edgecombe, Ace Bailey, Dylan Harper, and Cooper Flagg. Had a bit of a rough season overseas, and he's kind of fallen out of the good graces a little bit, but it seems like maybe he's kind of nudging his way back up a little bit. I got to dive a little bit more into him, but any of these point guards, or just the concept of a point guard being the guy at number 9 for you, is that something you're interested in if you're the front office?
I think Jace is intriguing for sure. I think, especially, with the way he shot the ball at Michigan State, I think his shooting numbers are appealing on a team that, again, we've gone over and over about in terms of their shooting ability. I think, if you're thinking about the way the game is played today and the size at every position and how much that matters, that is maybe some of the appeal that comes with Yakachonis.
Mm-hmm.
So I think between those two, it's tough to pick. But yeah, maybe I'd just lean Jace a little bit, just with the way he has shot the ball, especially on catch and shoots. I think that's something that would be really appealing.
Yeah, to what we talked about earlier with Jeremiah Fears, like if he's there, totally fine with a guard. I'm not super enthused by any of these guards in particular. I think Igor Demin, like, the passing stuff's really cool. The size is interesting. I think the shot is kind of busted, and I just think it's like way too samey with Scotty Barnes to bring in Demin. I think Traore, again, I got to kind of dig back into him a little bit more, but he's like a pretty big guard. He's like 6'5", I believe. He's still playing overseas. We didn't get measured at the combine today, which we do have some measurements in for guys. If you like to know how long some teens' arms are, today is the day for you, baby. And so, but yeah, with Traore, I'm open to him being the guy among these 4 that Chris is asking about. If I had to pick right now, it's probably Jonas just because of the size and the creativity over Jace. I think Jace Richardson, just as small as he is, I think the Raptors need to have a little bit more functional size in the team. So I'd go Jonas, but I'm leaning big or wing at this spot. If Jeremiah Fears is not there, I think is I feel pretty comfortable with that. Let's Big Ron asks, what's your starting five next year? I mean, with this, I think that just with the Raptors being ninth and the cap implications of that being less troublesome than if they had moved up, I think, I think RJ Barrett's going to be on the Raptors. I think this kind of sets the stage for them to just go into the season with him on the team and see what they've got. So you've got Quickly, Barrett, Ingram, Barnes, and Pirtle as your starting five. Is that the starting five by the end of the year? I'm open to debate on that, but going into the year, I think that's probably what I'd bank on right now. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of what I think the starting five will be, I would assume Quickly, Barrett, Ingram, Barnes, and Pirtle is the most logical answer.
Mm-hmm.
What would my starting five be is maybe a bit of a different answer.
Do we have a little Jacoby head in the, or Ochai? who? Like, they have lots of options. Here's the thing: if the team is oops all shooting guards, so lots of options to throw in there in place of RJ Barrett, assuming he's the guy you replace. Which, like, you're not replacing anyone else in the starting five. Quickly is too important with the ball handling and the pull up shooting. Ingram is Ingram, Barnes is Barnes, Pirtle is Pirtle. So it's RJ if you're replacing someone in that race between Walter, Grady Dick, and Ochai Agbaji. Who you got?
So I would go to Ochai as the starting.
You would say that
as the starting shooting guard. Yes, I would. And I think that it's just a bit too soon for Jacoby.
Sure.
And I wouldn't want to put that kind of pressure on him right off the top, especially, when you've got a team that's trying to transition from, what they've been the last couple of years to being a winning team. I wouldn't want to put that much on his shoulders if he has like a great first quarter of the season, first half of the season, whatever it is. And it's like, hey, he just is playing way too well to leave out. Then that's the way you go. But I do think it would be really good for this team's balance if RJ were to come off the bench and he can kind of, go into that Manu Ginobili role and just kind of lead the team in that aspect and have Grady Dick as a shooter beside him. And then, when you look at the starting lineup, I think having two guys who aren't going to need the ball or, need to get theirs between Yak and Ochai, I think that would fit in well with what Quickly and Barnes and Ingram bring to the table.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense, like basketball wise. I do think like the idealized version of Walter is like kind of tailor made to fit in as the fifth starter in that lineup. But to your point, it might be a little early. I wouldn't be opposed to getting an early look at it because I think he's kind of got the goods. But Ochai is like a low usage, low maintenance dude to slot in there, defend some dudes. I think I'd be pretty into that. This next one here, be like Chris Donovan, by the way. Chris Donovan sending in some great questions. We're not getting enough questions from other people. Be like Chris, send in some good questions. Thoughts on Colin Murray Boyles? Can defense make up for spacing? Also a guy I haven't watched a ton yet. I probably will more now that 9 is locked in. I've been kind of looking at the upper reaches out of hopefulness, I think. But certainly a toolsy wing at 9 feels very possible for the Raptors to go pursue now. But the concept of defense making up for spacing, this is the book on Colin Murray Boyles, just not much of a shooting threat, really good defensive player, connective passing, all that type of stuff. But do the Raptors have too much in the way of guys who can't really shoot to go add more to that mix?
Yeah, I would not look this way. I think the shooting concerns, I get it in terms of what he offers physically. And I think he'd be a potentially intimidating defender at the NBA level, but I don't think that's what the Raptors need right now. And I do think there's not enough upside to take that kind of swing at 9.
Yeah, it's not like he's going to walk in and be, your Giannis who can kind of guide your entire offense and everyone just kind of has to fit in around him and make it work. Yeah, it's tough. Like, again, the type of player I very much like. There's no doubt about it. I just think, if my sort of going motto, I guess, when it comes to identifying players for this team over the last however many years has been, does this guy fit with Scotty Barnes? And to me, kind of a tough fit to get sort of a Scotty Barnes light type guy to come in and play alongside Scotty Barnes. There are ways in which you could elongate some lineups. Maybe Scotty bounces back, hits 35% of his threes. All these things could happen to make it a little bit easier, but I think that's a tough way to go. And frankly, like if I'm going like front court, I'm going for a guy who, if the shooting really hits, like it changes the shape of my center position more than my wing spots. If that makes any sense. Like the guy I'm thinking about is Asa Newell, who, maybe doesn't go 9, maybe that's a little high, but if you're betting on any of the bigs in this draft to shoot threes, he's right near the top. Him and by the way, Maxime Reynaud, who our pal Raphael, who was on the podcast last week, did a sit-down interview with Maxime Reynaud on Locked In NBA Big Board if you want to go check that out. But like that guy shot about 35% from 3 this past season for Stanford, and he's 7 feet tall, measured today in without shoes. He's massive. Maybe he's a guy to take a look at. A big, tall French big with some skill. But like bigs who have the potential to be one of those incredibly valuable players. You're seeing it right now with Miles Turner, right? You can bang threes, you're going to be super valuable in the playoffs as a big man. And I think a guy like that would be sort of what I'm swinging for here over a guy like Colin Murray-Boyles, who's just a little bit smaller, a little further down the positional spectrum. Doesn't quite check the boxes you're looking at there. Those in the chat, we're running low on questions. So if you have more, send them on over. But we can kind of revisit our thoughts here. Give it a couple more minutes, see if any more questions come in here, Big V. I just keep coming back to how happy I am the Raptors didn't fully go all in on the lottery being their only savior this year. As someone who was like an original Brandon Ingram trade skeptic, I've already done a 180. I've now done like a full 360 where I've spun around twice and I've come back to, wow, this is awesome. Or a full, 590, whatever the the various spins are in Tony Hawk. Yeah, just glad that this whole night, this whole like off season didn't seem to hinge upon like they win the lottery and this is the only thing that makes this summer. I'm pretty thrilled about that. I don't know if you have any other lingering thoughts on that before we wrap up here.
I mean, the way it's played out is the way it's played out. And so, 9th is by no means a bad spot to be. Would I absolutely trade to be where the Sixers are right now?
That'd be great.
Question.
Yeah,
so, yeah, I think, just if we're just comparing maybe paths, like, okay, say you get the 3rd pick that the Sixers have, and now you're debating between, Ace Bailey and VJ Edgecombe, and now it really triggers the decision-making throughout the rest of the roster because you've got the money committed to that. All of a sudden now we're talking about, hey, okay, what are realistic RJ trades? Because you've got to get the money right. So I think there's a lot of activity that would have come with the Raptors being in the top 4. And so now things are just a lot more serene, and the Ducks have lined up maybe the way that the Raptors hoped financially.
Is the offseason just done? Like, obviously they have to fill a couple roster spots, but like, the 9th pick, you add your 2nd round pick with the Blazers pick at 38, 39, whatever it is. Like, I don't see much else going on here, man. It seems like it's maybe done. Which, wait, hold on. Listen to the podcast every day. Stuff could happen. Please keep listening for the next many months. So much.
Well, here's a question for you. Like, is there a player you would attach to the 2nd pick to move up?
Like the 2nd round pick.
Yeah.
That's an interesting one. I think, had they moved up in the lottery and the books got more complicated, I think like flipping Ochai plus that 2nd in a deal where you try to just kind of improve upon that Ochai spot or maybe find some more roster balance and maybe don't get a pick at all, I think was kind of interesting. And maybe that's the thing they could do now, right? Is there something where, you can move that pick? Is that pick attractive to somebody where, can you get more roster? Can you get a backup big with that pick plus Ochai plus something, whatever it might be? I think that's an interesting thing to think about.
Yeah.
I think, that might be. So look, they did lots of moving and shaking on deadline day or on the second day of the draft this past year. So anything's possible. They could get interested. You get creative with that pick for sure. Do you have an answer to your own question?
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly what you look to do. I think you explore backup big deals. I think that is probably the most pressing need now, going into the draft, going into the offseason as a whole, and just shoring up those minutes when Jakob Poeltl's not on the court. I know you're a big fan of just playing Scotty at the 5 as much as possible.
Yeah.
And that's a fine solution. But, I think it is important to, just as insurance, if anything were to happen to Jak, to have someone who you can rely on for solid center minutes in those periods.
That I totally agree with. Man, I would love if they could get their hands on Jalen Williams from the Thunder, who are going to be expensive, and he's going to be up for an extension this summer. And a draft pick? Sam Presti loves second-round picks. He'll take him to add Daniel Tice to his books because he's a little freak. Maybe that's something you can get done. I mean, he's playing in the playoffs against Nikola Jokic. Is he doing well? But he's someone I think would be a pretty cool fit, without a doubt. Final thoughts here, man. Lottery night. I still can't believe the Mavericks won. It's disgusting. It's awful. Spurs moving up is similarly kind of gross. I had a feeling, man. I was like, yeah, you know what? Things are lining up. Things are going to break right. Never trust your feelings with the damn lottery, man. The lottery sucks. The lottery is meant to leave you sad. Yeah. By the way, did you know the Brooklyn Nets have like 4 other first round picks this year? I'm just scrolling through. They pick like 25th, 26th, 19th, and 8th. Crazy. I'm sure they're thrilled. Yeah. All those bites at the apple having not won the lottery. Anyway, yeah. Any last final thoughts here on lottery night before we wrap up? And we're near the hour mark now, and questions seem to have dried up thanks to our dear. Oh, wait, one more from Chris Donovan. The question God. Who's your God? I hope this guy slides to 9 guy other than Malawash or Queen. I mean, you could say Malawash or Queen if one of those is your guy.
Yeah. It is Malawash. I don't know that I'm necessarily looking at anyone else. Because I mean, reasonably, the guys in the top 5 you expect to go in some order in the top 5.
Yeah,
and so I think between the guys after that, I don't really care for Konupol.
Yeah, he's fine. Like, I think he's going to be a good NBA player. I just, they have a lot of the same type of guy, so I'm not like too worried about it.
So yeah, it would be Malawash.
It's Malawash and Fears for me. If Fears is there, I'm thrilled. If Malawash is there, I'm over the moon. And if they take neither of them in that spot and take Yohan Behringer instead, then hey, I guess trust in Messiah or whatever, because that's all you can do. Man, oh man, draft lottery night, not as climactic as we were all hoping on the Raptors end, but that's okay because we won't be in this position, knock on wood, next year. And if we are, maybe it's there in the spot that the Mavericks were in, and they jump up from 14th and get the first overall pick because nothing is fair. And I guess the NBA is rigged. I guess we're just going to move into that. We're going to become a conspiracy theorist podcast. That seems to be good for ratings on any media. So maybe we just, that's our turn here, Big V. We just go full conspiracy mode. Start digging into all the great conspiracies of NBA history. Anything you want to plug for the YouTube freaks still sticking around?
Usual stuff. You already plugged it in there. Raptors in 7, Basketball Insider, Sportscasting. You can follow it all at Vivek M. Jacob.
Hell yeah. We'll leave it there. Thanks, everyone, for watching the live stream. And full podcast will be up on audio tomorrow. If you missed the first part of the show, you can also go back and rewatch the start of the video earlier on today as well. Thanks to everyone who tuned in. You're all the best. And have yourself a good rest of your night. And I have a second basketball to shoot at the end of this. Here we go. Bye-bye. Oh.
Ooh.
See ya.
So close.